Hello, and welcome to the Election Assistance Commission's training on federal laws that protect the rights of people with disabilities. Thank you for taking the time to complete this training. Let's get started. The two laws that we will cover are the Voting Accessibility for the Elderly and Handicapped Act, or VA-EHA, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. These laws are wholly dedicated to protecting the rights of persons with disabilities. Other federal election laws, like HAVA, have a broader scope, but also include pieces that provide further protections for voters with disabilities. Throughout the federal law series, we will discuss additional protections. In this video, we will provide you with information about what the Voting Accessibility for the Elderly and Handicapped Act and Americans with Disabilities Act are, who they apply to, and how they affect your work as an election administrator. At the end of this training, we'll also provide a summary of resources available to help you follow accessibility requirements. While the title of the VA-EHA may not be familiar, election administrators are likely to recognize the Act's requirements for physical accessibility to polling places. The VA-EHA predated the ADA by 6 years and required polling places to be accessible for elderly individuals and people with disabilities in federal elections. If an accessible polling place was not available, then the VA-EHA required that an alternate polling place or means of voting must be provided to voters on Election Day. Because the ADA made sweeping changes to accessibility and public life shortly after the VA-EHA, many election officials may not realize that the VA-EHA came first and is still in effect. The ADA is a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability and guarantees that people with disabilities have the same opportunities as those without in many areas of public life, from employment to voting to parking. The ADA covers all parts of the voting process. To satisfy the requirements of the ADA, covered entities, including state and local governments, must make reasonable modifications to programs, services, and activities. So who does the ADA protect? Qualified individuals with disabilities. The ADA definition of disability is a legal, not medical term. The ADA defines a person with a disability as anyone who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. This can include people who have a record of such an impairment, even if they do not currently have a disability, as well as individuals who do not have a disability but are perceived as having a disability. Remember, disability is not always obvious to the eye. To put that into perspective, there is an estimated 16% of people over the age of 18 with disabilities per county on average in the U.S. You can learn how to find your jurisdiction's average using the Estimating the Voting Age Population with Disabilities training. There are many kinds of disabilities that can affect someone's vision, movement, learning, communication, and hearing. The ADA applies when you are serving voters and the public, as well as when employing office staff and temporary workers. Select each button to learn more. Let's check your understanding. Read the question and answer choices and select your answer. Then select Submit. What does it mean to give a voter with a disability an equal opportunity to benefit from all programs, services, and activities? It means they must be provided in the most integrated setting appropriate to the needs of qualified individuals with disabilities. While this ADA requirement is very broad, the Department of Justice provides more specific standards and guidelines. Let's go through a few examples. Select each button to learn more. The process to request, mark, and return mail ballots, including the design and placement of ballot drop boxes, should be made as accessible as possible. Each ballot drop box should include an accessible route to the box, an accessible clear floor or ground space in front of the box, and an accessible opening. Here are the links to DOJ Dropbox accessibility requirements and EAC mail voting best practices. Voting locations and election offices need to be physically accessible. ADA requirements extend outside of the building to parking spaces, if available, and includes the pathway to and through the location. The DOJ has a checklist of requirements for in-person voting. The EAC has best practices to help with the last-mile details. Let's check your understanding. Read the question and answer choices and select your answer. Then select Submit. The voter registration process should be accessible to all eligible voters, including voters with communication disabilities. This includes communicating with voters about registration opportunities and deadlines, form instructions, and the form itself. It is a good idea to consult with local disability rights organizations to test the accessibility of the forms. Please review the EAC Best Practices Checklist on voter registration accessibility for more detailed information. Vision, hearing, or speech disabilities can impact the way people communicate. State and local governments are required to communicate effectively with people with communication disabilities. The goal is to ensure that communication with people with these disabilities is as effective as communication with people without disabilities. The Learning Lab's 8-part series on accessibility provides helpful guidance on accessible communications in person, online, and through video conferencing forums. For more information, you can also contact your regional ADA center. One way to make communicating with the public easier is to use plain language. Plain language means communicating to your audience in a way so they can understand your message the first time they read or hear it. The Communicating About Elections with the Public training includes examples of how to use plain language in your election messaging. Let's check your understanding. Read the question and answer choices and select your answer. Then select Submit. Qualified employees and candidates with disabilities are entitled to reasonable accommodations from the job application process through employment. Reasonable accommodations are any change to the application, hiring process, to the job, or the way the job is done, or the work environment that allows a person with a disability to perform the essential functions of that job and enjoy equal employment opportunities. For example, providing the poll worker training manual in large print or an accessible electronic file is an example of a reasonable accommodation. However, accommodations that create an undue hardship are not considered reasonable. For more information on reasonable accommodations and undue hardship, you can review the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's guidance using the link on screen and consult your legal counsel. EAC research into how voters with disabilities use computers and the Internet has shown that voters with disabilities' most preferred electronic source of information on the voting process is election office websites. The DOJ has outlined the technical standards that state and local governments must meet to follow their obligations under the ADA for web and mobile application accessibility. Let's check your understanding. Read the question and answer choices and select your answer. Then select Submit. Let's check your understanding. Read the question and answer choices and select your answer. Then select Submit. Let's check your understanding. Read the question and answer choices and select your answer. Then select Submit. Congratulations! You have completed the training on election laws that protect voters with disabilities for election officials. You should now have a better understanding of what the Voting Accessibility for the Elderly and Handicapped Act and Americans with Disabilities Act are, who they apply to, and how they affect your work as an election administrator. You have also been provided with some resources that are available to help you follow accessibility requirements. As always, thank you for your work in elections.